July 27th, 2002. At the Sknyliv Air Show in Ukraine, more than 10,000 spectators gather to watch an afternoon of acrobatic displays. Unfortunately, their excitement would soon turn to horror, and hundreds of lives would never be the same again. Just after midday, a Ukrainian Air Force Sukhoi Su-27 fighter jet crashes into the spectators below. The pilots safely eject. However, 77 spectators, including 28 children, are not so fortunate. They are killed, and a further 543 people suffer injuries, making it the deadliest airshow disaster in history. The Su-27 fighter jet was flown by two pilots, Vladimir Topanar and his co-pilot Yuri Yegorov. Topanar was a member of the Ukrainian Falcons, an aerobatic team from the Ukrainian Air Force famed for their spectacular stunt flying. With the plane under the control of an experienced pilot, everything should have been just fine. However, right from the outset, things seemed a bit off. Communication between the pilots and ground control indicate that during the performance, the pilots didn't seem to know where the crowd was. Where are the spectators? I don't know where they are. There, I see them. Not on the right. Executing left turn. Should we go? Turn left, turn left. This confusion regarding the location of the spectators may have led the pilots into performing maneuvers in the wrong airspace. Some were executed directly over the heads of the spectators. One inverted half loop that should have been performed adjacent to the spectators was instead made directly towards them. Shortly before 1 o'clock, the plane enters a roll at low altitude and continues to descend towards the spectators below. It clips a branch of a tall tree on the edge of the airfield. The pilot is unable to control the plane as the left wingtip strikes the ground. Terrified spectators just feet away either turn to flee or remain rooted to the spot in fear. The plane clips the nose of a stationary transport plane, then continues on its deadly path. Both pilots eject as the plane cartwheels through the horrified spectators, exploding in a huge fireball. The aftermath was like a hell on earth. Rescue workers were met with the sight of dozens of bodies and body parts all over the tarmac. People were wandering around injured and in a daze. A total of 77 spectators, including 28 children, were killed. More than 540 were injured on that fateful day. Both pilots survived the disaster. Co-pilot Yegorov had pulled the handle at the last possible moment. Pilot Vladimir Topanar had apparently kept on fighting with the controls until Yegorov ejected them both. They landed in the airfield just a few hundred feet from the crash scene. Who knows what they must have felt when looking around at what had just happened. The investigation into the disaster wasted no time in finding the two pilots responsible. They were accused of reckless endangerment, failing to follow orders, and attempting to perform flying maneuvers of which they had no previous experience. In their defense, both pilots said they had been given an incorrect map of the airfield. The layout on their map didn't match the layout on the ground. The spectator area was incorrectly labeled. They had requested extra time to practice their maneuvers, but this request had been denied. In 2004, both pilots ended up in court. 3 judges from the Air Ministry found them guilty and sentenced them to prison. Topanar for 14 years and Yegorov for 8. Both were fined the equivalent of over $1 million. 2 flight officials were also jailed for failures to adequately ensure the safety of the spectators and failures in the organization of the airshow. Even the head of the Ukrainian Air Force, General Viktor Strelnikov, was dismissed. Yegorov served 3 years in jail before being released. Topanar served 8 years. He continued to protest his innocence. In a 2013 interview, he stated, "The parameters we were given significantly exceeded the safe margin of separation from spectators. What happened is the fault of the organizers. Planes should not fly over spectators. During the show, I noticed decreased thrust of both engines and the airspeed fell, but the cause remains unknown. Ground control ordered us to continue the flight. During the last maneuver, the plane became uncontrollable. They said it was caused by inexperience. I have 27 years in the cockpit and was a member of the Ukrainian Falcons. To the last, I struggled to lift that plane, but co-pilot Yuri Yegorov hit the catapult and we ejected. Although the cause of the crash still remains disputed, at least by Toponar, the effects were visible for all to see. 77 lives lost, hundreds of spectators injured, families shattered, and witnesses traumatized.